So today we're going to continue with part 4. Is it possible to understand what God is? And first off, be really clear. To understand God is only to be able to experience it to the degree that we're open to the possibility of experiencing it. It all depends on how open our mind is to see beyond whatever restrictions that we've got going on in our mind. You get that? Because if you have a framework of thought, that framework of thought will be how you experience the divine. The only way to have a greater framework of thought is to be able to have an imagination. Let your imagination go beyond the boundaries of where you are today. This is one of the things that we do not do enough of. We don't imagine. We've stopped. We keep thinking the same thoughts over and over and over and over again. If you realize that you're having 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, psychology shows that. They also show you that 90 to 95% of thoughts are the same ones you had yesterday. Yesterday. Same ones. So why do you have Groundhog Day? Same thing. You want a greater experience of the divine? Actually, a greater experience of the divine is no thoughts. Feel the silence. That's where the divine exists. The human illusion is that the divine is felt through the senses. The senses are just the way that humans experience. The divine has nothing to do with the senses. So the infinite mind is not only omnipresent, everywhere present, omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing. It is also omni-action. You don't hear this very often, this term omni-action, when you're hearing about all the writings and spiritual teachers. But as I was studying Raymond Charles Barker, he brought this concept up, and I love it. And he says, it means that every action at every point in the universe is God expressing. Now people say, well, that can't be. You mean an action of murder is God? An action of rape is God. An action of starvation is God. If God is everything, then it must be so. Now let's take that from the standpoint. Does God care? Absolutely not. Why? Because it's infinite. Meaning there's nothing that God compares anything to. Take that a step further. You're an individualized expression of God at the very core of all that you are. Meaning that you are omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and you have Omni Action. All the power that created this cosmos is available to each of us in every moment. The fact of the matter is we've done an identification with this human body, with these 5 senses, and we have said that is who we are, when in retrospect, those are the things that we're using in this plane of existence to experience God, to experience life. But the infinite aspect of who we are, that we only know when we're in the most deep state of meditation, there is no feeling. There is none of that. It disappears. And so when you're in meditation, you say, oh, I'm having a great meditation. No, you're not. Because that's your senses. You only know when you've had a deep meditation, when you come out of it and you said, where was I? How do you describe it? No words can describe a great meditation. Because it's impossible to describe something that is infinite. That makes sense? It's really contrary, because we are so tapped into these senses that we want to feel everything. That's great, but realize that's not the divine. That's the human wanting to feel it. I'm saying that's not bad. I am here on this planet to fully experience everything I can through my senses. But I realize that that's not Lee. That's the personality that Lee has. The Lee that is the individualization of God, it's perfect just like it is. It doesn't need anything. All I'm doing in my life is becoming more and more aware of what I believe is my truth. And I believe I'll be doing that for the rest of eternity. I believe that the point of consciousness that I am when I leave this body will go on into whatever else in the next realm. I don't know what that is. I have no clue. But I do believe that my point of consciousness will exist. I believe that yours will as well. And I think it's a constant unfolding for eternity. Because why not? It's infinite. You're infinite. You have infinite possibilities to experience. Think about that. Infinite possibilities to experience. Wow. This accident, this inconvenience taught me the law of attraction really well. And I said a little bit earlier, but I'm going to define what it's like. I fell because a wall was coming down. I went backwards to avoid the fall. Purposely fell on my back, on my tailbone, and then falling back, I put my hands out to stop my head from hitting. I fractured a tailbone, so I've got to fracture my tailbone. I have ligaments that are strained in this hand, I have ligaments strained in this hand, and I have a fracture here where they'll put a screw in on Thursday. That happened to me last Saturday morning, okay? Did I cause that? I've been playing with this all week long. Did I cause that? Not directly. I'm not responsible for it, but in a way I am. Why am I responsible for it? Well, why was I walking next to that construction wall? I could have been on the other side of the street in a sidewalk. I'm not saying I should have been. I'm saying I could have been. So then I said, okay, let's embrace the fact that this has happened. So what has that done to me? Well, number one, I'm in constant pain right now. Okay, what's that doing? It's making me appreciate my body as it is. So because I'm in this and I'm in human form, what do I have to do? I have to take action. So the first thing I did Monday morning is I went to my chiropractor nurse practitioner and he looked at it and said, you got more going on there. And he took some x-rays. Then he said, okay, I think this is a fracture. You need to get an MRI. So I get sent to an MRI. So I'm in the MRI machine. How many here have been in an MRI machine? And you know how loud those things are? Now, the last time I was in one, I was in for 15 minutes, and it was like 20 years ago. I was in it for 40 minutes. And what I did is I was lying on my belly, my hand like this, and I tried to meditate. Well, I couldn't meditate. But what I did is I pulled out one of my tools, and I pulled out my mantra, the Ganapati mantra. And the Ganapati mantra is Om Shrim Hrim Glim Gam Gam Ganapate Virvadada Sarvajaname Washamane Swaha. And I've done that probably several 100,000 times over the last few years. I did that for 40 minutes, and like that, the MRI was over. See, I didn't want that machine to control my experience, so I took a tool. I tried to meditate, didn't work. So what do you do when one thing doesn't work? You grab something else. You've got the tools, you're taught the tools, you grab it. So the MRI came in. Then all of a sudden after that, I go back, yeah, you need to see a hand specialist. So I go to the hand specialist. It's arranged. The guy's one of the top surgeons in the area for athletes on the hands. And I'm dealing with the clerks, and the clerks say, well, Mr. Wolak, we can't treat you. I said, I've got great insurance. I'm here. Got a referral. What do you mean you can't treat me? Well, we need to have a claim number from the construction company that's responsible for that wall falling. I said, I haven't filed a claim. I don't have a claim number. And they gave me this, well, we can't treat you. After 5 minutes of trying to be logical, I left. And I called my guy, Trace, on the phone and said, hey, they won't let me in. And he says, go back in. It'll all be taken care of. I walk back in. I go up to the desk. Next thing you know, the CEO of this large place is coming out with the young lady who was telling me that I could not be treated. And he says, Mr. Wolak, I'm sorry, there's been a big misunderstanding, and you'll be treated here immediately. Okay? I sat down and I watched. I'm very observant. When you're in pain, you become observant. Do you get that? Your senses are heightened. And I was watching, this African-American couple came in. And they went up to the same person, and they were given all sorts of administrative gyro for 15 minutes, and they ended up walking out, very frustrated. And I came to the conclusion, it's who you know. And I go back to my father. when my father was a fireman. So he wasn't, like upper middle class or that. He was a fireman. And we lived in a very small home. But my father said, Lee, try to get to know the very best people in whatever you're doing. Because if you know one person that's a top in a field, they will know other people that are in the top of the field, and now you've got a referral network. So what has happened through the week is I've been referred to the very best. And so all this is unfolded by my divine action. And my divine action is simply my action, consciousness, knowing that I'm going to heal quickly with the right people at the right time in the right way. Having all the right lessons. So you've got to take action. So many times we get into the spiritual thing, I'm going to pray it out. Well, do you know what prayer means? It means speaking it, knowing it, feeling and acting from it. We keep forgetting that we've got to act from the place of knowing we're one with the divine. And when you're acting from it, you've got to feel it. So when you're walking into a doctor's office, I'll use that as an example. Here's what's going to happen to Dr. Purcell Smith on Thursday. He's going to come into the pre-op. He's going to tell me what he's going to do. Do you know what I'm going to say to Purcell? I'm going to say, I hear you're the best hand surgeon that's in this area. And he's going to be humble. And I'm going to say, but you know what I know? Today's going to be the best surgery you've ever done. Because I've already consciously thought that I've implanted that into his mind. And when the anesthesiologist comes over, I'm going to say to the anesthesiologist, I know that you're going to give me just the perfect amount of anesthesia. So I go down just enough so I don't have pain and I wake up refreshed. Do you notice how I am already in my mind, in my imagination, I'm creating the action that I'm going to take toward that event? But if you go in and you're not taking that type of action, you become subject to what? The law of averages. And you're going to have an average experience. You become a statistic. Who wants to be a statistic? Now here's the next thing they said. After surgery, Lee, it's 3 months before you can lift weights. That's almost worse than not having sex. I'm going to tell you, that's awful. I love working out. Working out is my physical release. I love that. And I realize, okay, this is going to cause me to use my imagination even more. So can I visualize by simply doing this, my biceps getting bigger? Can I imagine by doing this, I can make my triceps get bigger? Can I imagine by doing this, I can make my chest get bigger? See, I'm using my imagination and saying, what can I do differently than what I'm doing to achieve what I want to achieve? But if you don't use the imagination and you don't take the action, nothing's going to change. Because I could play the game, well, for 3 months I can't do anything. And what's going to happen to the body? It's going to deteriorate, right? It naturally does. If you don't exercise your body, it deteriorates. There's no question to that. So when we go on from here, all life, truth, intelligence, and love are this action. Raymond Charles Barker really clears it, says all action is the divine expressing. It must be, because if all action is not God expressing, what you're saying is God is not infinite. Well, then what have we done? Everything that we believe is shot. Everything that every major religion in the world believes is not true. Because every major religion in the world believes there's an infinite, and they call it God and they define it differently. But it's infinite. But if it's infinite, there's nothing other than it. If there's nothing other than it, there's nothing to compare to, there's nothing to judge from. That's why you can say that the infinite God, divine intelligence, is love. What does love mean? Love means to accept. So God is accepting me as I am, allowing me the freedom to be myself, knowing that I have the 4 qualities of God within me, and I can use them however I choose. That's powerful. But it's a level of awareness to know that. The power is available to everyone. It requires is to respond to us is that we know that it is. We got to know that the power is there. And it's not just to know it, it's to consciously choose to use it. How many times have you heard that your life is your choice? Your life experience is your choice. And you can begin to have a new life experience by simply choosing new this moment. And when you choose new, you act differently. You feel differently. You think differently. You speak differently, aligned toward what it is you desire to experience. Everything has to be aligned there. Otherwise, you're sending a confused message, and that confused message will give you confusion. When we are fully aware of Omni Action, we will rid our mind of all negative hurts and fears. If you know that your action creates, why would you do something stupid? Why would you go out and have 12 martinis? If you knew what alcohol did to you, why would you do that? It's a good question. It's like, drinking poison, thinking someone else will die. That's what unforgiveness is. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. No, you're going to die. What is unforgiveness? It means you're holding on to something that's causing you pain. If you're going to see it through the divine eyes, what does the divine eye see? The divine eye sees everything in balance. How do you see everything in balance? You take the event or the person that's matched up with the specific feelings, that gives it its power, and you find a way to separate the feeling from the event. When you've separated the feeling from the event no longer has power because there's no longer feeling. The only way you can do that is you've got to be able to see that the event is both positive and negative. It has all aspects to it. There's as much good as negative that comes out of every event. I'm getting a lot of talks out of this hand, aren't I? That's a good thing, right? I get to be a living example to you about how do I use these tools as I go through this. That's a wonderful thing. I get to prove that these tools work for myself as I go through this. Here's the biggest thing. One of the biggest things is I got to be so grateful for my wife, Jean. Because my wife, Jean, is a quiet woman. And that's good. Because I'm a loud man. And there's got to be balance in the universe, doesn't there? But the thing about Jean is when I ask, can you assist me with the hospital arranging things, it's done like this. There's no discussion. I don't have the time. There's nothing like, it's just done. And she'll think ahead. I brought home this release. If you sign it, then I can bring the paperwork home tomorrow. She thinks ahead. So I express probably not enough gratitude for my wife, but in front of you today, I'm expressing that. And I know that in her heart right now, she's saying, ooh, I really love that stud. You know, how can I not love that stud in front of the community? He talked about me and he did it nicely. There are other times I don't talk as nice because I play. And play sometimes doesn't sound nice. The only price we pay to consciously use this power is to have the mental discipline to daily know that the good can be and is already ours. It's a daily discipline to do and be conscious and be aware. It's not something you do once a week, once a month, twice a week. It's a daily discipline because when is life happening to you? Every moment. And if you don't have the reminder every day that you are not your senses, that you are the divine, that you have the power within you to act in alignment with what you want, you're going to forget. You're just going to forget. It's human nature. And what happens? That little ego comes in, and that ego will make you forget even faster. Omni Action. Here's the other thing that's happened. I believe so deeply in the power of meditation. Everyone here knows that. And I believe that you have energy within you to heal faster than you think you can. So in the afternoons, what I'm doing now is I'm going into a meditation where I'm sitting and I'm literally building the energy, going through my crown chakra down into my heart, connecting the divine aspect and the heart aspect of me, and I'm shooting that energy from the heart into the areas of my body that need healing. So I'm saying I know that the healing power is within me, and I'm using that healing power now. This hand, you can't tell that it was 3 times swollen last week. This hand, the swelling is almost completely gone, but they put this cast on because they don't want me moving it, because they don't want that bone to separate more. So I don't know that I have a belief that I can heal the gap that they said is in the bone. I don't probably have that. I bought into the consciousness that I'm going to need that screw, so I'm accepting that's my buy-in, and I'm going along with that ride. Does that make sense? So I'm saying God is in the doctor, and I can use the doctor, and he is an expression of what? The divine, right? And the surgery is an expression of what? The divine. The anesthesiologist is an expression of the divine. So why don't I guide all this divinity into this process? And so next Sunday, you'll see me on platform. You'll see me 3 days after surgery, and I'll be just fine. I'll have something on here, I'll be just fine, but that's okay. What did Ernest Holmes say? He said there's a natural evolution in the demonstration of a prayer. It goes from the point of non-believing to the point of believing, and there's time in the human realm to get to that. There's a time involved in the process of healing, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. It's the process of getting a new belief so the body can heal. And it's alignment, knowing that there's all power, all wisdom, everywhere present, and the action is always there for you to take. But here's the key. Only you can choose to embrace these powers. And when you can embrace them, you are now in control of your life and you've let go of victimhood. My challenge to you is this next week, meditate every morning, and start consciously creating your life.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.